Hi, Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the Sagittarius February 2025 horoscope for Sun and Rising placements. I am so sorry it's taking me so long to finish these videos, and this lighting is making my eye look like I'm drunk. I swear I'm still sober. I promise. 9 years, over 9 years now, going strong, still in my recovery, still in my meetings, still working on my fourth step 3 months later. I mean, I'm pretty much done with it. I just have to go over it with my sponsor. But, it's work. It's a lot of work being sober. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and dive right in, Sagittarius. I'm Sag rising, so I'm excited to see what this means for us. I haven't looked. I don't even know. Let's see. Okay, so every February we start out in the fixed air sign that is Aquarius, and where Aquarius hits in the Sagittarius horoscope is the third house, which is the house that represents our communication. So, one of the things that we are being asked during February and during Aquarius season is to really reflect on how we communicate as Sagittarius people and whether or not it's working for us and bringing harmony and equality into our lives. And I say equality because Aquarius, while it's not Libra, it really cares about social justice, fairness, community. It wants to be it's kind of got a people pleasing nature in a similar way as Libra, but it's very much it's interesting. Like Libra and Aquarius are both associated with wanting fairness and equality and justice and, really caring about, others. And there's also this quality to both of the signs. It can be really conflict oriented, where it can be very reactive, very pushy, because it also really wants to advocate for those things. So, the Three of Swords in the tarot, which is a Libra card, represents, conflict. I mean, it's also tied to love triangles and heartbreak, but the Three of Swords can also represent communication conflicts between multiple people. And, we think of Libra as being conflict avoidant, but an evolved Libra knows how to have healthy conflict and knows that conflict can actually be like healthy conflict can actually be a pathway to success and growth. And I think Aquarius has a really similar nature where it can see that advocating, social justice, doing, work for the community and pushing things that are good for the community can lead to progress. But through that, we can also experience some conflict because there's obviously our perspective is not always the same perspective as other people's. So one of the big things that Aquarius people have to learn is how to advocate for their beliefs. And Sagittarius has to learn this too. That's why I'm bringing it up because it's hitting our third house. Is that we have to learn how to advocate for our beliefs while also recognizing that part of advocating for what we think is also accepting that it's not just our way or our perspective is necessarily the right way for everybody. And so what might work for us or what might be our agenda is not somebody else's. And that's kind of, I don't want to get into politics about this, but this is kind of the theme for the horoscope. But, it's like there's certain values that I have where, it's not harmful for someone else to share a different value system as long as they're not making laws about it that infringe on my values. In the United States, we're supposedly supposed to have a country where we have the freedom to practice whatever religion, we believe in. That's why there's so many cults in this country because there's a lot of people practicing their freedoms. Astrology is mine, like I believe in astrology. And, I'm grateful that I live at a time where I'm not getting burned at the stake for, being on YouTube and sharing my views about it. But, that's the thing, right? Is it's like, I don't care if other people believe in astrology. Like, if you don't want to believe in astrology, don't believe in astrology. I don't care. But I don't want someone coming in and preventing me from believing in it if it's something that I want to believe in, right? And so I think that that can be kind of the lessons that get learned with Aquarius and Sagittarius dominant people. Because Sagittarius, we're very passionate about values, belief systems, spirituality, seeking. We're also very open minded and expansive towards learning many different perspectives and things. And Aquarius is a little bit more rigid. Aquarian people tend to be more logical, more rational. Like, well, here are the facts, if there's no proof, I'm not necessarily going to believe it, that kind of thing. And that can be really good too for those of us that are a little bit more ungrounded with our beliefs, or we're maybe even sometimes more gullible because of that. So with the Aquarius energy in the third house, in having the sun here and Mercury here, it is positive for us to really reflect on how we communicate our truth, our perspectives. We think of all the swords cards in the tarot, and that's really prominent for us right now in terms of our communication. It also represents our relationships with our siblings, the third house. So if you have siblings and you're working through any communication dynamics with them, also neighbors, siblings and neighbors. This is making me think of my dog. My dog's always barking at my neighbors. I'm like, oh man, I do need to work on that. So yeah, so those are some themes kind of, for Sagittarius with the third house placement starting out the month. The other thing that we have starting out February is Venus in Pisces. She has been in Pisces since January, since the beginning of January, but she's only going to be in Pisces for the first 3 days of February before moving into Aries. And she will go back into Pisces during her retrograde, but she's going to be in Aries for a long time too. So think about Venus in Pisces and where it's been hitting in the horoscope is the fourth house. And so the fourth house is the house that is connected to our home and family. And Venus blesses this area of the chart. So when Venus is passing through the fourth house, we do have kind of this good fortune energy happening around where we live and also with our relationships with family. And Venus is usually tied to women or female relationships with family, but this could also be women or female relationships with anybody that we cohabitate with. So that's, definitely something that is promoted. And if you don't have a good relationship with your family, and Saturn's also been passing through this area, which is difficult. When we have a Saturn transit through the fourth house, we are working through difficulties in home and family kind of situations and trying to kind of build more strength here. But Venus really wants us to heal that. There's a lot of opportunity for healing around relationships with family and women in the family. Venus on the fourth entered Aries. And so Venus is actually moving into the fifth house, which is the house Leo traditionally rules. And she's in Aries now here. And the fifth house, this is a really positive energy. It's enhancing your creativity, self-expression, relationship to children, relationship to your inner child. It's what brings us joy, pleasure, what drives us, where do we feel passion around how we express ourselves. And it's making this beautiful trine to our ascendant. So that's really positive energy. However, Venus is going to station retrograde here at the beginning of March. So we might be in a little bit of a reflect, review, reassess period in terms of how we're putting ourselves out there creatively, and if there's any adjustments or changes we feel like we need to make. That retrograde is definitely going to do that for us. It's also going to go back into our home and family area. I'll talk all about that in next month's horoscope. The next energy that's happening around the same time that Venus enters Aries is Jupiter stations direct in Gemini. So we've had Jupiter in Gemini for quite some time, but it stationed retrograde a couple of months ago. And then it's been retrograde in our seventh house, which is the house that rules partnership and relationship. And Jupiter is our ruling planet. So Jupiter traditionally rules Sagittarius and Pisces, and it's been in Gemini, which is, considered its detriment. I personally really enjoy Jupiter in Gemini. And, I've read some literature about how it's not necessarily a bad energy, like the detriment here, it doesn't necessarily function terribly. It's just, it's like integration of something that's a little bit different than what it's used to. And so it's more about expanding our analytical mind. Gemini rules communication. So Jupiter in the seventh house, it's like we're growing beyond where we've been in terms of partnership dynamics and relationship dynamics. Jupiter, when it's blessing the seventh house, brings a lot of new relationships into our life, whether they're romantic or close friendships. So when we're, experiencing transits to the seventh house, it highlights partnership dynamics of all kinds, whether that's working partnerships like a business or colleagues, or if it's a best friend partnership, or if it's a romantic partnership or dating. This brings a lot of that energy up to the surface, and it's also pushing us to grow beyond where we've been in these dynamics. So it's interesting because, like, anecdotally, as a Sag rising that has this, 12 years ago was when Jupiter was in this placement, and 12 years ago is when I got married. So I got married the last time Jupiter was in my seventh house. And 12 years later, I'm divorced. Jupiter is back in this house. I have a new relationship in my life. I have new friends. I've got new friends that I have really close one-on-one connections with. And, I still have friends from my past that I have really close one-on-one connections with. And healing from my divorce and past trauma in friendship dynamics has been a major theme for me as Jupiter has been here. And I think that the retrograde anecdotally has been a time where I'm reflecting a lot on my past and what worked, what didn't work. I'm doing, AA stuff around that, around resentments and areas where I was the problem and, really sitting in my reflections on that. I mean, I'm 35, so the majority of that 12 years, like I was really, really young, so I think that, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see those cycles and those patterns, kind of show up. So think about 12 years ago where you were at, Jupiter, was here, and where are you growing and evolving in similar ways all these years later, and how can you reflect on that growth? That's a big part of the retrograde. And also when it's stationing direct here on the fourth, it's allowing us to kind of actually grow beyond. It's like time to heal, time to move forward, time to grow beyond, time to let go, all that kind of stuff. And it's really in alignment with the full moon that's coming up in Leo on the 12th. So on February 12th, well, I get dehydrated, my voice starts doing weird things. On February 12th, we have a full moon at 24 degrees of Leo. And where this is hitting for the Sagittarius horoscope is the ninth house, which is the house that Sagittarius traditionally rules. And it's the house that has to do with our values, belief systems, higher education and learning. It's a great time to set intentions towards the things that you want to manifest in your life that are more in alignment with your values and your beliefs. This is also the house of long distance travel. So if you get kind of like this travel bug, like I want to go to more places and experience more things, or if you want to enroll in an education program, or you want to start teaching something, this full moon is a really good time to set intentions towards that. And it's very in alignment for you to kind of lean into all of those themes, especially with Venus passing through Aries in the fifth house at the same time. After that, the next shift that we're going to have is Mercury leaving Aquarius and entering Pisces. So Mercury is going to enter the home and family area of the chart. This is a good time to work on communication dynamics, especially around communicating your feelings. You might also be more psychic or intuitive around home and family dynamics. So that's something to kind of think about. If you are moving, this is a time where you need to be really discerning about any kind of contracts or fine print. If anything's coming up with where you're currently living, if you're trying to sell a home or anything like that, just be really discerning because Mercury and Pisces can kind of miss things or be taken advantage of in certain ways. So that's something to be mindful of. And then on the 18th, the sun moves into Pisces. We enter Pisces season, and that energy is going to, join Mercury in the fourth house. And then after that, we have Mars stationing direct in Cancer. So Mars has been retrograde since December, and we've had Mars in Cancer so many times, it feels like, and it's finally stationing direct. And where it's been hitting for the horoscope is in the eighth house. So Mars in the eighth house is pretty frustrating when it comes to these themes. We have sex, we have death, we have rebirth, we have things tied to the occult. We also have very practical things like marriage, inheritance, shared assets and resources, and any kind of connections to banks or financial institutions. And we have Mars passing through the eighth house. It can bring up some conflict in these areas of our life, and it can make some major changes during a retrograde for sure. I mean, I know so many people that have gone through some pretty big, significant financial and relationship turmoil when Mars is passing through their eighth house. And so if you've been going through things like that, where you've been having to work through those things, whether it's with a marital partner or family members around financial institutions, things like that, or your own personal debts, that kind of stuff, that's definitely a theme that's been going on that Mars is kind of forcing you to have to work through. And when Mars stations direct, it's not necessarily going to get any easier right away, but at least whatever the holdups have been, where maybe things haven't been totally completed here, it'll finally start to solidify or complete. I definitely have some stuff that I've been just like, when is this happening? And so now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Mars will leave this area of the chart in April 16th. So we have it here still for a little while. It just won't be retrograde by the 24th of this month. So then on the 27th, we have a new moon at 9 degrees Pisces that enters the home and family area. So again, this fourth house theme. And this is really positive for setting intentions or anything regarding home and family, or even your private life and your more kind of like personal relationship to your private life that you want to manifest. So I know for me, like I love my apartment, but there's some serious problems with this building, and I do have a goal to want to move out. And I'm not in a rush because I know that doing things in that way isn't always constructive. I rushed into moving in here and no regrets. Like I'm glad that this is where I moved. It was the right call. But I'd like to not be rushed in the next transition, but I do want to set intentions and tell the universe during this next new moon at the end of the month that I would like to get myself to a place financially where I could relocate somewhere that is a little bit more congruent with my lifestyle, because I feel like even though I love living in Hollywood, there's some aspects of it that are really starting to wear on me, and this building is just, it's got a lot of problems, but I also love the community here. I have a very 50-50 relationship with living in this apartment. If there was no pests in this apartment, if it was totally pest free, I think I'd be down to stay here for a long time. And if it was cleaner, but I like in terms of the building itself, it's so awful how terrible that is. Anyways, those are the kinds of intentions that you can set. Some of the other ones could be if you have some turmoil in family relationships, if there's decor stuff you want to do or upgrade stuff in your home, setting intentions around that. And then again, the private life. Ancestral healing is a big theme for fourth house new moons. If we want to focus on this kind of like karmic lineage and we want to meditate and really get ourselves healed from any past trauma, especially family related, that's really supported during this time. So those are good themes for a Sag dominant person for February. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. If you want to book any one-on-one tarot or astrology sessions with me, my email is in the description box, and I will see you all next month.